City Lutherie in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and in this video we're going to do another Sustainiac install, but right up front, just want to make sure that you know this. There are a lot of people around the country who've been calling. They can't find somebody in their area to do this work. Check shipping charges before contacting me. That just it knocks a lot of people, it sifts a lot of people out of contention of me having them do this work. This one in particular was sent to me from the Nashville area. The owner says he couldn't find anybody there, but he's willing to pay shipping to get it to me twice. So you gotta look up what your shipping rate for the entire guitar to be sent to Minneapolis and sent back. That is going to be added on top of whatever work I do. So like I said, that's going to sift out a lot of people who are interested in having this done, because it's going to be a lot extra just to get the guitar to me. So now that we have that settled, doing another Sustainiac install. Why am I going to keep doing this? This is going to be a different one yet. I recently invested in a CNC. I'm going to incorporate that into this project. I'm going to be making templates for this guitar. I'll have them cut out on the machine. I'm not at the point where I can just program the machine to do custom routes on the body. I'm still at the point where I'm making the templates and then using a hand router. So yeah, maybe someday down the road I'll have yet another Sustainiac install where I do have everything done on the machine, but that's not what this video is going to be. So we've got ourselves this Charvel here. Going to be replacing the neck pickup. It's always the neck pickup. It's not going to work properly if we're down close to the bridge. We're going to add a battery box. You want to have easy access to your battery on these, because Sustainiacs, they eat up batteries really fast. You don't want to be going into the controls where there's all these extra wires and stuff and yanking on battery wires to get things in and out of there. I always recommend a separate battery box. We're just going to get this all planned out. The guitar is going to come completely apart. I'm not going to, I got to pull pickups and electronics out, everything. So part of this process is just completely dismantling the guitar. That's going to be one of the first steps. So let's get this underway. All right, let's do our inventory here. So we're doing a Stealth Pro install. This is what the main preamp, motherboard, whatever Sustainiac calls it. We're going to need to have plenty of room for this to fit. One end needs to be close to the volume pot, and we'll be planning that out here in a little bit. You're going to get a driver with. This is not actually a pickup, like if you bought a Seymour Duncan, a DiMarzio or whatever. This side here, this is hollow. There's nothing in there. The only electronics are in this side. If you have something with a Stratocaster pickup in the neck position, you would get that size. If you have something with a humbucker, you get this size. They do not sound different. When you turn the Sustainiac off, this operates as if it were a pickup. You can get sound from it. But if you're wondering, well, I'd rather have the humbucker Sustainiac because I like the sound of the humbuckers. Nope, it doesn't sound different. This sounds the same as the one that is Stratocaster size. So it is, you select based on the routing in your guitar. This particular install, we're going with the AUX TT switch. Got our on off, and then this is the three-way selector. There are different options for this. You can get like push-pull pots to turn the Sustainiac on and off. There are smaller boards that have the two switches to fit in thinner body guitars, like an Ibanez Joe Satriani guitar. It's a thinner body. You can fit these in, but you have to get a different part than this. So this is kind of the main thing when you're measuring things out. You need to find out if you can fit this part or not. Sustainiac runs on a battery, so you need to have a stereo jack. We have passive pickups. That means there is no battery involved in the guitar currently. If you have a guitar that has active pickups or active electronics, EMGs are active. They require a battery. There are other guitars where there's a preamp. They need a battery for the preamp. In those cases, you will need a 9-pin jack. Those are the ones that are the black plastic box shape. I'll show you one here in a minute. Because you need to be able to have two batteries, one for operating the active electronics and one for operating the Sustainiac. We don't have that situation in this install, so just a standard stereo jack will do the job. For the battery, there are two options. I'm going to be using this battery box on this particular install. Thing to keep in mind, you can also use a type of battery box that requires a battery clip like this, where you actually clip the battery into it. These can wear out. You can pull a wire loose or whatever. So, maybe you don't want to go with that option. But then to keep in mind on this, the wires here can come loose from the back of the battery box. It is a 50-50 option here. These are nice because you can just open them up, slide battery in and out, real nice and easy. Over time, these solder joints can become weakened and the wires can come off, and then you will have problems with your electronics. Same goes with this. If you have a different style battery box, or you make a custom route and have the battery housed in there, it's the same deal. These connectors here, just the whole apparatus here can over time come apart and you end up having to replace it. So like I said, it's a 50-50 decision whether or not you like having the clip or you like being able to slide the battery in and out easily. So you might be wondering, is it possible to do this type of install and avoid as much routing as possible, where you either wanting to cut down on how much labor is involved in doing this, or there was one of my first Sustainiac install videos, the guy didn't want the guitar altered, or altered as little as possible. It was an Ibanez. I'll put a link up here, and all I did, the only thing that would cosmetically you would see was that the two switches were between the volume and tone controls. It really comes down to what room there is inside the guitar. And on this one, we're going to go over why I can't do it the same way as that Ibanez one. So, if you're wondering how much is involved with an install, it depends on the guitar. Each one is different. I haven't done two of the same exact installs yet. I'm waiting for the day when all of a sudden I have like 2-3 Stratocasters come through. Those I can do the same. Everybody'd like it. It'd be fine. I would have an established price and everything. But this guitar versus that Ibanez versus that other guitar versus that other guitar, they're always different. So you just have to lay it out and kind of get an idea what's involved. So let's take a closer look at what we have going here. Looking down here, it looks as though we have room, but the location of things makes it difficult. With our switches, commonly like Schecter guitars, they have Sustainiacs installed from the factory. They usually have the switches put over here, which the owner of this guitar is fine if these end up over in this place, But the major thing is, I've clipped on some of the wires onto the motherboard here, and you want to keep these orange and white wires as short as possible. It's because you can have some interference, grunge. It's described in the instruction manual, but basically these wires you want to be kept short, and they're going to be on the switch, kept close to the volume pot. So probably looking something like this. We're going to be having our switches over here, somewhere in this area. It is looking like I'm going to have to put this in this area. I could do it like this as well. We've got to figure out, I could maybe work it like that and then have the switches here. But we got to, coordinate with the front side of the guitar, find out where these switches are, that we don't have them right up where your picking hand is going to be knocking into them. And doing it like this is getting a little bit ridiculous. You can do it, but that's just going to be kind of a big job and just look a little ridiculous when it's done. I'm expecting that right now, just kind of this initial examination that I'm going to end up doing something like this, where I just bring this wall up a little bit, and we're going to bring this contour out. We'll make a new cover and everything. Everything will look stock like it was from the factory. But yeah, this is just an example. You got to think ahead. In the instructions, these got to be kept short. So that means we want to, it's something in this area. We could do that. If the mini switches were maybe going up here or something, or way down here, this would work. But most likely, this is going to be where we go with it. A little point to make here as I'm dismantling everything. There's a lot of extra wire in here. When you're doing an install job like this, you're going to want to have everything be nice and tidy. Normally, I would just clip pickups off, either desolder them or clip them off close. This is for the bridge pickup. Look at all that extra wire. It's just going from here to the switch. We don't need all that. Clip it off. Still leave plenty of excess. We won't be using the neck pickup, but when this is done, this wire here should be clipped somewhere about this long. So we don't need all this extra wire. This potentially can cause interference, or just if you're going in to adjust your Sustainiac board and you have all this extra wire and you're having to pull things in and out, you've got so many things dangling around. It's just more room for something to go bad. One thing we don't have to worry about this is driver fits right into the pickup route. There have been a couple times where I need to trim or lower the route a little bit to get things to fit. Also, what's important is we want this to be adjustable, and by simply putting the neck on, I can tell that the driver is well below the level of the fingerboard. So I'll be able to put some little padding underneath the driver, and we'll have some up and down adjustments so that the driver can be adjusted for distance to the strings. You want to have that because it's a sensitive unit. There are times when it can be too far away or too close. You got to be able to adjust it. So I want to establish where everything's going to be from the outside. So I know how close switches are to the strings, the tremolo, and everything like that. And in order to get an accurate tracing on the front, I take these little refrigerator magnets, really cheap, and put one on the inside, one on the outside. See that there? And on the inside, you got it sitting right there. I can then move it around along the wall of the route, take a little pen on the tape here, mark where it is, and I'll end up with a nice little drawing on the outside of the shape of the control cavity. And that way I can kind of lay things out, see both front and back, so I know if I have room, if I know everything's square. Like I said, don't want to get too close to the tremolo unless you're just left with that. So yeah, I want to know, we're going to be putting those two switches probably over here. So I want to know where this wall is, how close, make sure that the wires from the jack aren't going to be coming through in the way. Just a neat little way of figuring out how to do that, how to get that tracing onto the front. So you can see here, just move the inside magnet along the walls inside the control cavity, and then make little marks as I go along. I might need to put on a new piece of tape here, but as you can see, little dashed lines all around. That's what the control cavity will look like, or that's what it looks like from the other side. Now I'll just take a ruler or pen or whatever and just connect those lines and have a nice line established there. So here's the plan. Our switches, the on, off, and the three-way selector for the Sustainiac will be over here. I'm going to have them lined up establish a straight line here, have the switches lined up like that. Be something like this, just so that we're not in the way of either of the controls, but they're not way out here, hard to reach. The primary motherboard, preamp, I never know what to call it. It'll be roughly here. So I'm going to flip this back over, as we know how we've established our outline here. We know that we're going to put this one here. We're going to have to extend up this way here. So I'll mount these controls again, and then we'll lay out some tape and actually draw, and then it's time to establish what the template is going to be. Everything's back in place. Like I said before, we want to have the wires coming off here close to the volume. So we'll have this about like here. I think the idea that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this wall back just a little bit, not a lot, just enough so that I can slide this all the way down behind the volume pot here. As you can see, it doesn't fit there, but if we bring it over like that, it should slide down just fine. Give a little bit of room bringing it this way, and it'll fit in there nice and neat. These will go right about here. So now I'm going to lay down some tape, and I'm just going to draw out here, enough room for everything to fit. So this is what the CAD program looks like. You can see I have everything drawn out here. It's a pretty basic two-dimensional program. I haven't moved on to doing three-dimensional stuff yet. Yeah, just these are the drawings for both the inner and outer routes. And I'm going to run a simulation here, make sure I have everything correct, and I'm going to be cutting all the way through. Once I've proven that, then it's time to head over to the machine and get everything all cut out. So import my drawings into the CAD program, as you can see, and the idea is I drew them just like they are on the body. There's one inside the other, so I can line things up and make it look professional. What I can do then is I can do kind of a copy and paste where it's both routes, and the idea is I just assign to the CNC, you only cut one of those two lines. So I've got two different size routes, and it's like they fit inside just like on the guitar. And the idea is I can just take that same thing, I'll put down pickguard material, and then with only highlight the outline of the recessed control cover and assign the cutter to cut the outside of the line. These are both cut on the inside of the line. That way, we're not making things bigger than they need to be. They're coming out just how they're needed. So all that's left, obviously double check. I'm leaving all my marks on here so that everything is lined up where I want it, and everything's coming out great. Now is the point where we're going to start actually cutting wood. I'm going to hog out a lot of the wood for the battery box first. Before I route that, I already have a pre-made battery box template. You don't need to make one. So get most of that out. This here, I'm just bringing this back a little bit. This is going to be 90% of what's done in here. That I don't really drill out because sometimes it kind of wants to jerk, so I'll just carefully trim it back. I'm going to be matching the depth. This edge will come back just a tiny bit. Everything going to work out great. This lines up really well. It's a little hard to get a camera angle on it, but you're just going to have to trust me. You'll see later in the video. And yeah, that's what it is. I didn't have to take any time like previous times for the past 25 years when I've been making templates where I'm actually having to sand and make sure that these are all straight using a ruler or something and the edges are square. It came out really nice and clean on the machine, and yeah. All right, here we go. Time to move on. Even though I've drawn this out, something I like to do, since we're routing this anyways, just take a razor blade inside the template, cut through the tape, score a nice line in the finish. Even though you shouldn't have any finish chipping problems because we're using a high-speed hand router, it's sometimes it's nice to just do that one little extra step. But I'm also doing this because when I stick this to the body, I'm going to use double-sided tape. I don't want to tape to body. I want to tape to the body. So now I can just peel this back. Might be a little hard to see on my camera here, but my lines are scribed into the finish. I know where to line my template up now, even without the drawings on the tape. And while I'm at the drill press to hog out the wood to start the battery box install, I have marked on the front for the 2 switches, keeping everything square, lined up and all like that. This I've also double checked that it'll fit in the new route. I'm going to drill for these down, I don't know, like 1/2 inch or something. Drilling it now before I do the route, because even though I'm using a brad point bit, and these are supposed to, they cut around the edge, they cut the circle of the hole first instead of like from the center out. There's still a chance of blowing out the wood on the inside, like having the wood chip out. So I just do this before I route, and then when I go through with the router, nice, clean, perfect hole. Primary routing is done. I went level with the original depth here of the control cavity. And there's one issue with that, is that these, your little mini switches, don't make it all the way through to the top. Get this turned around here. They barely poke through. I could maybe get a nut on there, but I want something a little bit better, so I'm just going to go in that one little section. I marked with a pencil on either side of where these switches are, and I'm going to just try and freehand it. Match my router depth to the depth that's around the pots, because those are a little recessed in here. I'm just going to do like 1 or 2 little passes, try and get to those lines. It's going to be the only freehand part of this, but it's necessary. I don't have a router bit long enough to set up a template to do this secondary little route here. I mean, there's probably some industrial bit or something. I just don't have one. This will work just as fine. I can get it nice and pretty darn close, and if I need to, if it's a little wavy or whatever and it bugs me, I can just go in and like file out the edges and make it look nice and smooth. There you go. Just a little area right around where this is. I didn't route the whole area thin or to this depth because I don't want to make the wood too thin. I don't want anybody to bump it and then body cracks, so the idea is just here, kind of the same idea around the pots and the switch. That little extra depth there, otherwise we're keeping the wood thicker throughout the rest of the area. Check here. Definitely got room to put on some washers, lock washers, etc. So yeah, just gotta do that one last little bit of it. conductive shielding paint. It's what was in here before, so I'm just painting over what's there. Include the new areas that I routed. This guitar has body mount pickups. These are threaded on the base plate. As you can see, the screw doesn't go through. I've drilled this one out. You gotta be really careful about that. Do not want to damage anything. That's all there is to it. So, get this in the body. I'm going to have to add some padding to the bottom. If the neck pickup route, or the neck pickup, the route for the neck pickup is too shallow, you're going to have to route it down, because we've got some exposed connections here. You don't want that to be touching any conductive shielding or anything. You don't want to like force this into anything. We're going to put it on padding just normally. You gotta remember, these connections can be fragile over time. I'm going to say it again, if you're having issues with your Sustainiac system, double check your battery clip that you're getting your voltage out of there, that these wires haven't broke off. Whether you're using the battery box or a battery clip, both over time can break down. So I've put a hole going into the jack here from the battery box, and then I'm going to feed out into the main area here. Doing it that way because I don't want any stresses on these wires. So before I start loading everything into the guitar, this is kind of the, let's say, the rat's nest of wires that Charvel put into this guitar. Just going to point something out here. With the Sustainiac, you don't want extra wire all over the place. You want everything nice and neat. There are certain wires that shouldn't be laying across others and whatever. And while this is not that situation, it's just a neatness thing. So coming off your Seymour Duncan pickup, your red and white wires, these get soldered to a push-pull pot so that you can do coil splitting. So you can go into single coil mode. Charvel put in this extra length of yellow wire and then had these soldered to here. These, the red and white, can go direct to the pot. So we can get rid of all this extra. And we're going to get rid of this other one, the black with the red and white soldered to it, because, well, the Sustainiac driver isn't an actual pickup, so we can't do any coil splitting on it. It will only be for the bridge pickup. But then we've got all this extra length of this red and the blue and yellow. I'm going to be shortening all this up, make it all nice and tidy. I'm going to get rid of all these extra solder points on the top, try to have everything combined nice and neat. It's one of these things where you don't want to have ground wires all over the place. You want to kind of focus where they are in one central location and just get rid of a lot of this extra length. So let's do our last little bit of planning here and kind of explain why I'm going to be wiring things in certain ways. Let's get this tucked out of the way so I can kind of show you as we're moving along here. This is our chassis ground. It goes to the trem claw. Do not forget to solder that if you have that, or there will be a wire that goes underneath the bridge that needs to be grounded at some point. The length on this I'll determine when I get to that point. I've set the switches in place. The reason for that is our driver wire. This is the Sustainiac driver. It's what takes place of the neck pickup. You want to keep this down low, and it comes over, and it actually comes to this, gets soldered down here, not your three-way switch. These are the three connections for the driver. So we need to plan ahead. We do not want to have the white and black, or I should say the red and black wires of this exposed and near the pickup wires. We want to have them up close, soldered to the switches here without any excess hanging outside. The other thing is we've got our battery wires are going to this. So like I was pointing out before, we want to make sure that we can service the battery box or the battery clips, whichever you choose to use. So we'll be soldering these here, but not like that. This is like the one instance in this whole operation where I'm going to leave a little extra, maybe like that much. That way I can take these 4 screws out, I can feed wire through, and I can lift this out. I'll have enough wire, enough slack to pull it out if I ever need to do a repair on this battery box. So just think ahead. Like I'm going to say this over and over through the rest of this. Got to keep things short. Not in this case. Won't be able to get the battery box open. Won't be able to service it. This one gets a little extra. Now we're going on to our pickup wire. It comes through here. If you remember, that's where I'm planning to have the preamp. I'm going to have this one come out this way. I'm going to make sure it gets kind of packed down towards the bottom, and I'll be soldering it real close to the volume pot here, the ground of it. We've got the red and white wires will be going right here. Keep that all short, and then only, since this is Seymour Duncan, hot is black, there will only be the black wire coming across to the 3-way switch. That is because, got to keep in mind, on this 8-pin connector, we have I believe it's an orange and white wires. They need to be kept short and close to the switch. You don't want to have those with any extra length, and you do not want them close to your pickup wire. So the idea is this will be, get this wire tucked down there. The preamp sits in nice and cozy like that. It'll be soldered there, little black wire coming across, and then our other wires are coming over here. So we're keeping them away from each other. There's sometimes issues with an oscillation sound or some grunge when you're using the Sustainiac that can be caused from the signal wires of your pickup being too close to the orange and white wires that we're going to be soldering up over here. Also on this end of the main board, this clip gets connected right here. I do have enough room where I should be able to run these wires around the side of the preamp along this wall. Otherwise, you can always clip these, shorten them, but make sure you put shrink tubing on. There have been jobs where I needed to make these longer in a different style guitar. It's not a problem if you do that. It'll still work. You just gotta be nice and neat with it. Make sure that your connections are done real well. Make sure you shrink tubing on everything. This one I'll be able to, I'll have to kind of finagle it with, well, no, there I can get it. I can show you how it's done. It'll look something like that. Now over here we've got our green wire that goes to the jack. We've got a blue wire. This will be going to the switch. And I'll check the diagram again. These I believe are for an optional, if you have a little secondary mini switch. If you're not using these get clipped off and you put a little shrink tubing on the end of them. You don't want them to contact anything. You don't solder them together. Do not do that. Clip them off. Make sure that the little exposed wire at the end isn't touching anything. A little shrink tubing and you're good. So that's the plan. Another thing that I'm going to do, put some tape on the back here. I don't know if the little connections here can poke through this plastic sheath around this, but add just a little bit of tape on the back because we've got shielding paint on the side. If for whatever reason over many years of use they end up poking through and this touches the wall here, that could be a problem. So just a little extra touch there. Came across something of note, something that's not necessarily in the Sustainiac manuals or anything, but something I've done that worked out before. So to recap where we are, we've got everything plugged in, whatever. The orange and white wires are to be kept short. They aren't supposed to be near the preamp, signal wires, whatever. They're going to be coming over here to the selector switch. Need to keep them short, but keep in mind that need to be able to lift the preamp out a little bit so that the trim pots can be adjusted. So not just that length. There will be a little bit of slack, but going to be kept short. I'll probably loop them out into this area a little bit so that this can be lifted up. Blue wire, that goes to the switch. There's no concern about that. We've got a ground wire here. Yellow is an optional. It's for if you have a drive pot. We're not doing that in this install. So once again, clip it short, shrink tubing. The thing that is of note here, these long gray and violet wires here. Gotta twirl them. They're supposed to be twisted together and kept away from pickup wires, anything that carries signal. So coming across here, and I haven't soldered it yet, but we've got the hot from our Seymour Duncan pickup right here. And that's gonna be crossing right over, just like that. So what I've done in other installs, I take some copper foil shielding, the tape, just peel this off, it's adhesive on one back, and I wrap this length of wire in this copper foil, follow it up with some pickup tape so that the foil doesn't touch anything, ground anything out. That will help isolate these, will shield them from the signal wires. It's worked for me in the past. I'm going to be doing it this time again. If you have an install and you're having an issue and you're finding that you have things crossing over and you can't figure it out, you can always try using some of this tape to help isolate various parts from other parts. There have been times where I will wrap the actual preamp in foil shielding tape and then add some of this around it because of all the various components and stuff inside here. I needed to help isolate the board from things. That worked out well. Once again, if you don't put tape over this tape touches your connections wherever, it's going to short things out. So this followed up by this. Here, clip this one short. Time for the jack. Now, I'm not going to use all this wire. This is plenty of slack coming out here. This green goes to the preamp, this goes to the master volume. I will clip these maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches out from the body. Be kind of like that when it's soldered in. I personally like to do that because if you have a jack that needs to be replaced, you can pull it out here, do the work here. You don't have to go inside the body to mess with anything. So I'll be clipping these off. Definitely pay attention to the diagrams that come with your guitar, because you need to make sure that the wire that engages and disengages the battery goes to the correct terminal. That would be for this one, the shorter one. Your actual signal goes to the tip of the cable, the tip of your tip there. Note how it plugs in. That's the hot, that's the signal. If you're missing your wiring diagram, easy way to remember this, you just follow it around. This here, follow it down. We've got 3 rings down here. It goes to the bottom one. You just follow that around, and this is the terminal for your hot. Now the battery ground, the second arm here, you just follow it down. It's the second ring. Past that first one, it's right there. Then the center, the sleeve, main ground, it's attached there. That's real obvious to see. As you can see, I went ahead and made a cover for this. All I had to do was program the cutter in the program that made the routing template to cut on the outside of the line, and then still it was a little bit tight, so make sure that it fits in here. I sanded the edges just a little bit so that it would just kind of fall into place. You don't want your covers to be tight because well, if you need to go in and adjust anything, it's a real pain to get in there and you can end up damaging the finish around the edges. So yeah, fits in nice and easy. I'll finish this off with some foil shielding on the inside. I did forget something. Program screw holes in this, so I'll just end up having to do that by hand. not a big deal. Quicker for me to just drill some holes than to fit a whole new cover. But one last look here. We've got everything in. We've got our orange and white wires nice and short over here. We've insulated this wire, which is supposed to be kept away from the pickup wire right here. And everything's nice and tidy. We've got some slack for the jack if you want to pull it out and work on that. Same with the battery wires. You know, I'm retrofitting. I'm not doing this from scratch. Otherwise, it can maybe make it a little bit neater. Sometimes we'll put in new pots, but that wasn't the case here. These were functioning just fine. There wasn't any reason to. And as you can see, you can pull the preamp out enough to adjust the trim pots while keeping our wires nice and short. We want to have the adjustability, and like I said, there's tape on the back here. Make sure that we don't poke through onto that insulate shielding paint that's on the wood here inside. So we just gotta finish this off, and then we'll test everything out. There you have it, another Sustainiac install. This is the first one where I've incorporated the CNC to make custom templates. I've had to, anything that needs a custom route, I've always been cutting them out by hand and then having to sit there and sand the edges, make sure everything's square. So much easier and much more accurate for me to have drawn this up on CAD software and have that template cut out by the machine. Hopefully I'll be able to use those templates again sometime, but if not, somebody sends in a guitar that's a little bit different or they want things in different areas, I'll just draw up something new. Like I said before, the battery, I keep having people bring these in with issues, and it's probably 3/4 of the time something to do with the battery. The wire broke off, battery's dead. These eat through batteries super fast, so you've always put in a new battery in. Something to keep in mind, like all active electronics, you leave your guitar plugged in, the battery is connected. You can have your amp turned off, or you can just, you know, I've got a cable here going to my tuner. If I leave that plugged in, I can now turn the Sustainiac on, and it's operating. Hear that? So just simply plugging it in, having the switch on, it's operating, it's draining the battery. So make sure you always turn it off and unplug it. That'll get you the best battery life out of these. So time to get this one back to the owner, and I hope you enjoyed this. My Sustainiac videos seem to be somewhat popular, so I hope you enjoyed this one as well. Any questions or comments, you can always leave them below the video, or contact me directly on my YouTube homepage. There's an About section, you'll have the information there. And we'll see you next time.